Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you watch this in the world. I hope you guys are doing okay. Now, as you can see, we've got IGN on the screen here, and this is not going to be like a serious video. I just want to outline something that I've been saying about gaming journalism for quite some time now, and IGN is perfectly reflective of the points that I want to make and the points that I've made to people over the years, and more recently this year with how bad gaming journalism has gotten. Now, as you can see on there, it says that Sparking Zero is a 7, which is good. You know, it's a good score. Now, I wouldn't give it a 7, I would give it higher, but it's fine. You know, everyone's entitled to their opinions. But when you really peel back the way these games are reviewed by games journalists, it starts to become a little bit more confusing, and you start to wonder how they come to their conclusions and why they even use a point system to begin with. I think people like looking at numbers, so that might be why. But it's not really a serious way to review a game. And these gaming journalists and these gaming publications are not very serious to begin with. Half of them don't even play the games all the way through. Most of them don't explore like mechanics in fighting games or even in other games like I know Elden Ring or Black Myth Wukong. They'll get to certain points and they'll just stop playing. So they're not serious to begin with, but there are some people that still go to them. And I thought it'd be good to outline why this is not a serious review and why numbered reviews are often quite stupid. Now, like I said on my previous video when Gameology did a review on Sparking Zero, there's one thing to have an opinion, there's another thing to lie. Now, it's not that IGN has lied here. That's not what this video is about. Gameology lied. That's why they took the video down. Giving a game a low review and then giving your reasons for why you don't like it and why you think it failed in certain areas, that's fine. Outright lying is a problem. So that's the distinction I want to make. But this is not what this video is about. Just for those of you guys that were wondering why I went in on Gameology so hard, it's because they lied. Now, as you can see there, it says 7. I saw that and I was like, okay, you know, given the reception of this game, I thought maybe IGN might give it an 8 or a 9. 7, okay, no problem. As you can see, I've got a bunch of tabs open there. Now, it's very baffling to me how IGN score games. And I specifically want to call out IGN because they're one of the ones that still use the numbered system. If you click on here and you go to review scoring and you get to here, it says 10 is a masterpiece. Right, simply put, this is our highest recommendation. There's no such thing as a truly perfect game, that is true. But those that earn a masterpiece label from IGN come as close as we could reasonably hope for. These are classics in the making that we hope and expect will influence game design for years to come as other developers learn from their shining examples. Now they've put God of War there. I don't know which one they have put in there. I would not say any God of War game is a masterpiece. I'd say they're pretty much all very good though. The Last of Us, definitely not. Breath of the Wild, I won't say anything on Breath of the Wild because I haven't finished it. I would say if you were going to put a masterpiece type game up there for Zelda, I might go Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time personally. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. Grand Theft Auto, definitely not. And I don't mean as a slight on Grand Theft Auto, I just don't think it's a masterpiece. I'd say Grand Theft Auto is probably an 8 to me. But again, I wouldn't use the numbered system if I'm just playing by their rules. And then you got Amazing. We enthusiastically recommend that you add these games to your playlist. If we call a game amazing, that means something about it seriously impressed us, whether it's an inspired new idea or an exceptional take on an old one. We expect to look back at it as one of the highlights of its time and genre. I'd say all of those picks there are probably fair. I don't know much about Forza Horizon, but the other ones there, I'd say those are fair picks to illustrate that point. 8 is a great. These games leave us with something outstanding to remember them by. Usually novel gameplay ideas for single player or multiplayer, clever characters and writing, noteworthy graphics and sound, or some combination thereof. If we have major complaints, there are more than enough excellent qualities to cancel them out. Now, that rating is where I would put Sparking Zero personally. I would say that in terms of what they've presented us, Sparking Zero, when I was watching the marketing for it, was very much marketed the way we remember Tenkaichi. It is a versus game, it's a fighting game, and it's got other things layered on top. And the things they put on top of it are not impressive, I would say. The story mode is not great, especially if you've never experienced Dragon Ball before. I've told people before, do not play Sparking Zero if you want to play a single player Dragon Ball game. Go and play Kakarot, that is the one for you. It looks very similar, but when you start playing it, you can tell it's very clearly not a fighting game. There's no 1v1 system in there, even though the camera angle is quite similar. And you get to experience the whole story. And Kakarot goes leaps and bounds beyond that as well. So I would recommend that. So in terms of story, Sparking Zero is not the best. The what ifs are really good. They're few and far between, but they're really good. Where Sparking Zero excels is in its gameplay, where I would say the gameplay is genuinely outstanding. I think they did an absolutely fantastic job with recapturing the magic from the old games, and really making people feel like that came from that age, that was stepping back into that time, but with updated visuals and new techniques and new characters. And then on top of that, the online is... I've had no issues whatsoever. The only time I had an issue is when the game went live for everybody else, because I had early access and I couldn't get a game. Other than that, no issue connecting to anybody, no lag outside of maybe one match on stream, and that might have been my internet because the stream crashed out. So anyway, that's what I would put it. I think 8 is fair because it has some drawbacks. Music could have been better in the game, but where it stood out, it really excelled. Then you get down to 7, which is where they put Sparking Zero. Playing a good game is time well spent. Could it be better? Absolutely. Maybe it lacks ambition, has a few technical bumps in the road, or is too repetitive, but we came away from it happy nonetheless. We think you will too. Now, I apologize for the noise in the background, by the way. There's people in my house doing work and the whole family's here. Anyway, I didn't have any other time to record this video. Now, that's where they put this game. I don't think that it should have gone into good, but I can accept it going one step down from where I would put it. Now, the problem occurs when you look at the other games that they've given a 7 to, right? So we've established what the 7 is for. And so we come over here. Concord. Concord, a game that didn't last 1 week. You gave it a 7. Okay, now that doesn't make any sense. This is no longer about opinions. It's no longer about subjectivity. This literally doesn't make any sense. Sparking Zero delivered what it promised, and I would say it delivered on top of that. In the lead up to this game, I was not interested in story mode, and they didn't really ever market it as such. I was interested in the battle. That's how they marketed the game, and I was interested in the online and the character roster, and they accomplished that. This game set out to basically be an Overwatch clone, and it failed miserably in what it set out to do, so it did not accomplish that. So how the hell did this game get a 7? Sparking Zero is very much a love letter to the community. On top of that, it's also a very, very good fighting game, and everyone that's playing it, knows that it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things to do there. There's a lot of mind games, a lot of ways to be creative, and people are coming up with really, really cool tech. This game set out to be a hero shooter, failed in its character designs, failed to have very interesting gameplay, stuff we've already seen 100 times in more recent times, and they gave it a 7. How does that even work? Then you go over to Dustborne, another garbage game, and I actually sat down and played this. It is insufferable. I didn't get a chance to play Concord as much as I wanted to. I went to one of my friend's shops and he let me try it out, and Concord is, for me, it was just like, these character designs are ugly. I wouldn't play this anyway. When I started playing it, I don't like Overwatch, so I'm the wrong person to review it, but I was like, this is boring and the characters look like shit, so why would I play it? I'd just go to Overwatch if I was going to play that. I got to play this. This is garbage. This game is trash. The characters in it are unlikable. They don't look very good. The way the game is constructed is just a bit like, who would sit down and waste their time playing this? And IGN gave it a 7. A 7. A 7. And then if you go over to Star Wars Outlaws, another game that people universally do not like, and is quite buggy. Like, they said it's buggy at launch. As far as I could see on Twitter, this game is just buggy. It's just not a good game. It doesn't function very well. Again, has very unlikable characters. For a game that had quite a lot of money spent on it, it doesn't look very good either. It's visually unappealing. Then you pull up a game which has universally been praised by gamers, right, as being absolutely outstanding. I would say Black Myth Wukong is a 9. They've given it an 8. Now again, I'm playing by their rules. I wouldn't use a numbered system. I don't think they really make sense. But if I'm playing by their rules, they've given this game 1 point above a game that didn't make it past 1 week. Bear in mind, this game has sold over 15 million copies, and I think it did that in like 1 or 2 weeks. It got 1 point more than a game that got cancelled in its first week. You come over to Warhammer again. Warhammer is a fantastic game. You guys have seen me playing. It's in a couple of my videos. 1 point above Concord, a game that didn't make it past a week. See, IGN is not a serious publication. I went onto Twitter and I saw what people were saying about them, and they were like, you can't spell ignorant without IGN. Which is really true. I know it's a meme, but it's actually true. You can't spell ignorant without IGN. They really are ignorant to a lot of things. And I think that if games don't have certain things in them, These guys just do not want to give it a fair review. I don't know how in your right mind you could see a game like Black Myth Wukong, Space Marine, Sparking Zero, where people have unanimously praised them for accomplishing what they set out to do, and give them a point higher than Concord. Concord should have been given a 2 if we're playing by your rules. It should have been given a 2. It failed in what it wants to do. You could push for a 3 potentially. Even if you want to look at animes, for example, they do the same thing. Terminator 7. Terminator. This was the Netflix anime for Terminator. This is a very, very, very good show. I was surprised that when I saw it advertised, didn't really want to watch it. I was like, I've seen Terminator so much, nothing's gonna get better than Terminator 2. I went and watched this. So I was like, do you know what? I was wrong. Give me more Terminator media. If you're gonna do it like that, please feed me more. And this got a 7, right? She-Hulk got an 8. How? IGN, how? How? Explain this to me. Someone in the comment section explain. She-Hulk is rubbish, and I saw it. I watched it. So it's not like a thing where I'm piggybacking off of other people's opinions. I saw this garbage. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me when it came to the MCU. How, with your review scoring based on what you said, gave She-Hulk an 8? How? Didn't this shit get cancelled as well? You love giving things that get cancelled 7s and 8s. Then Lord of the Rings, right? This is the Rings of Power season 1. I actually watched this season. This show is an insult to Tolkien's work. From what I've heard, the second season is no better. I'm not going to bother watching it, so I'm going based off of the first one. This show is an insult to Tolkien's work, in my opinion. I love Lord of the Rings. I thought the films were absolutely fantastic. I don't know how you can watch this, given the media that we had of Lord of the Rings that came before it, and give it an 8. And so this video is really just to demonstrate how garbage these games journalists are these days. And I'm sure there are people that work in these companies and work in the other companies that are good at their jobs. But the unfortunate reality is that the overwhelming majority of games journalists are agenda driven. They don't play the games properly. They inject their own ideas into these reviews. They don't review them properly. I mean, when you read over this Sparking Zero review, it doesn't even seem like a terrible review. I went through it. We're not going to bother going through it right now. But I read over it and I was like, it's not like he's shitting on the game. They're not really shitting on the game. But then you give it a 7 and you give Concord a 7. I don't know. Like, who are you guys gamers? If everybody unanimously agreed that this was a bad game, this game didn't make it 1 week, and yet they spent how much on it? 400 million. Can you imagine what Sparking Zero would be if they gave it 400 million? Look how much money Sparking Zero is going to make. The game has broken all records for fighting games on Steam. Obliterate them. I don't know what it is on PlayStation and Xbox. I can only imagine it's the same thing. Now, yes, some of that is going to be because it's Dragon Ball. A lot of that will be because it's Dragon Ball. But loads of Dragon Ball games come out and none of them are doing what Sparking Zero has done. Sparking Zero has appealed to what we've been asking for a very long time. Otherwise, Xenoverse and Kakarot and Fighter Z, which did well as well, would be on the same level. Now, whilst Fighter Z is still obviously up there, it's been out for much longer, I have absolutely no doubt Sparking Zero is going to blow all of them out of the water. So yes, the Dragon Ball name carries heavy weight. But if you look within the Dragon Ball sphere, there hasn't been this much hype around the Dragon Ball game really since Fighters. And I would say the hype surrounding this game far exceeds Fighters, far outweighs Fighters. So if everyone's saying, oh, it's just because it's Dragon Ball, you can measure it against other Dragon Ball games, and this one is still doing way better in public discourse than any of them have by far. There was also these comments left on Twitter that I did want to reference because I'm not going to go into IGN's comment section because, as you can imagine, it's pretty brutal. If you go on Instagram and you go on Twitter and you read what people are saying about them, about their review of Sparking Zero, it's pretty brutal, so I'm not going to read them out. But you've got Mighty Keith here saying IGN gave Dragon Ball Sparking Zero the same score as Concord. I'm about to crash out. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero page here saying IGN gave Sparking Zero a 7. They also gave Concord a 7. This means Sparking Zero is 8, 9, or 10 by default. And I get the logic there. If you give Concord a 7, a game that failed as hard as you could possibly fail, you would have to try extremely hard to fail as hard as this game. To give that the same score as Sparking Zero means that it has to at least be a 9 at the very least. And even then, that's being generous. Now, we all know that Concord is not a 7. Okay, even if you don't want to be as harsh as me and say it's a 2 or a 3, you could say it's a 4 maybe. We know it's not a 7. You've got Legacy Killer here saying IGN is such a funny company. Concord 7, Star Wars Outlaws 7, Starfield, Shattered Space 7, Sparking 07. And then finally you got here this comment saying, this is why I stopped taking games journalism seriously years ago. Don't get me wrong, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is by no means perfect, understandably so, but to give the game the same rating as Concord, literally one of, if not the worst gaming releases of this console generation, is beyond me. It should be objectively impossible for Sparking Zero to have the same rating as Concord, knowing full well Sparking Zero will last over 1 week of release, let alone the fact that Sparking Zero is not plagued with all of the issues that brought Concord to its demise. And that's really the point here, guys. These games journalists are full of shit. People that go and review, they go and look at IGN as legitimate sources to measure whether a game is worth playing or not, are, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, in case you didn't know. Well, do you know what? If you don't know, then that's what this video is for. If you do know, if you're well aware of IGN and you're well aware of how they poorly review games, and you still go to them as a source of information to get your ideas around games that are coming out, I can only imagine that you have a very low IQ. There's no other way. I tried to find ways to like make it sound a little bit more PG, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, these guys are so stupid, or they are paid off, or they have their own agendas. I don't know. Was Sparking Zero not inclusive enough for you? How the hell, how in God's name does She-Hulk get a great? This show is not better than Terminator Zero. Terminator Zero accomplished what it set out to do. This failed miserably, and this got cancelled because of it. Now, I don't know who the team are behind Terminator Zero. I haven't looked into it. I've just watched the show, but I know that the MCU and Disney are absolutely huge, and they are going to put millions behind these shows, and you still failed because you don't listen to the audience. And these goofballs over at IGN give it an 8. You can't tell me that this is a legitimate gaming journalism website. It is not. It might have some people in there that do good work, but they're clearly not writing the reviews. And even if you did write a good review, like the review for Sparking Zero, again, it was not a scathing review. They didn't really put it down. They made some points where I was like, okay, that's a pretty like silly way of looking at it, but my opinion. But then to land on a 7, the same as Concord. Anyway, that's all I want to show you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I don't really have anything else to add. It's just more tomfoolery from this industry, full of people that clearly have their heads up their own asses.